magic of public speaking takes you to the top, no more dreaming. Makes you a world-class speaker. This a complete system, ain't nothing easier. I used to be shy, never had a clue. I didn't know what I could do. A little time, and you will see the magic of public speaking.
Welcome everybody to the Communication Lecture Series. I'm your host, Adam Banks. Thank you for listening to the show. This is a new interactive podcast where I take a communication topic and I lecture over it. So I want to thank you for tuning into the show, and I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to follow along with my presentation today. If you haven't joined our Facebook group, you can do that now. Go to facebook.com/the Communication Lecture Series and join the Communication Lecture Series group. And that is where you are able to access all of the PowerPoints that I put up for the episodes. So for this particular episode, I'm going to be doing the fear of public speaking. So go to the Facebook page and click on the PowerPoint and follow along. You can look at videos, you can look at sample pictures that I have chosen for this presentation. Also, if you have a question that you would like answered on the show, you can do that by going to our Facebook page and posting your question on the wall or the inbox, or email the communication lecture series at gmail.com, or you could call the public speaking hotline, and the number to that is 859-809-4431. So I usually post the number a couple hours or maybe even a couple days before I do a show, and I tell everybody the time that I'm going to be doing the show, and you can call in and be put on the air live for all of our listeners to listen to you, ask your question, or have a conversation about public speaking. So if you have any questions about the lecture that I go over today, or anything that you would like to talk about concerning the speech communication discipline, feel free to get in touch with me by either emailing me, go to the Facebook page, or you can call the number and call into the show. Now, all of our podcast episodes are going to be posted on YouTube. That is where this show will be published. And you can go to YouTube, type in the Communication Lecture Series, and subscribe to our channel. So let's get right to it. Our first episode, our first topic is going to be the topic chosen by the winning poll. I put up a poll on Facebook. What would you like to have our first episode be over? And this is the topic that won the poll. Today, I'm going to be doing the fear of public speaking. Okay, before we go any further, I would like to play a song that I like to play for a lot of my students on the very first day of class. It's a silly little sing-along. It's called I Hate Public Speaking. And it's a song that a lot of people can relate to because it talks about the anxiety and the fears that a lot of people have when they get up to public speak. And this is a little silly song kind of putting that into perspective. So go ahead, hit the link on the PowerPoint presentation that I told you to pull up, listen to the song, and then start the podcast back up and we'll move forward. So go ahead, hit pause, listen to the song, and get right back to it. Glossophobia. Now, what if I told you that glossophobia was actually one time considered the biggest fear in America? Now, some studies suggest that it still is the biggest fear in America. But what does glossophobia mean? It is the fear of public speaking. Do I have any Jerry Seinfeld fans out there? Or did anyone ever watch the show Seinfeld? It's a show that's been on the air for years in syndication. It lasted about 9 years, and it follows the story of Jerry Seinfeld, and he's a stand-up comedian living in New York. And at the end of his sitcom, he always is standing up doing stand-up jokes because that's his daytime job. And he really puts in perspective the fear of public speaking in just one joke. So go to the PowerPoint presentation if you're not already there on the Facebook page. Click on the link that says Jerry Seinfeld clip, and watch the video of what Jerry says about public speaking. So go ahead, hit pause on the podcast, watch the video. It's about a 15-second clip, and start the podcast after you watch it. Okay, so you should have pressed pause by now and listened to the clip. And it's hilarious what he says. He basically put in perspective the fear of public speaking. The number one fear in America is public speaking. And the number two fear in America is death. So that means that according to studies, most people would rather be laying in the casket instead of standing up giving the eulogy. And I thought that was just pretty funny. Okay, let's move on. And the good news is that public speaking is not a talent, it is a skill. And there is a separation between talent and skill. You just got to know how to separate it. Talent you have naturally. Skill is perfected after hours and hours and hours of working on your craft. And that's what public speaking is. It's a skill that can be perfected. So, you may ask, why are people afraid of public speaking? Well, I'm going to give you 8 solid reasons of why people are afraid to public speak. Reason number 1, they focus more on the public than they do the speaking. A lot of the times people have a hard time getting over the fact that they're speaking in front of an audience, and in return that takes away from the actual message that they're trying to deliver. Why is it that when you're having a conversation with somebody, you're fine, you're not shaking, you're not sweating, your voice isn't cracking, but as soon as more people enter the room, you start to have nerves, you start shaking, your voice starts cracking? It's because you're focused more on the public than you are the speaking. Reason number 2 is failure. Nobody likes to fail. Failing isn't fun. So people think that when they get up to public speak that they're going to fail. So they just avoid it entirely by not doing it. The third reason is insecurity. People feel like that when they stand up in front of an audience that they are exposing everything about themselves. And they become very insecure. You start thinking, you don't like when people are, you think that you get nervous when a lot of people are staring at you. And people don't like that. And on the contrary to that, some people get nervous when not enough people are staring at them because they feel like what they are saying isn't important enough. Another reason is perfectionism. People are so focused on getting their speech perfect that it causes so much stress and anxiety, they just avoid it altogether. I'm here to tell you that nobody is perfect. Not me, not you, not anybody. Some of the greatest speakers in the world mess up. President Barack Obama is one of the greatest speakers that this country has ever had, and even he messes up. I was watching a speech that he did the other day, and he was stuttering and fumbling over every single word that he did. You're not a robot. You are a human being. You are going to mess up. Too many people is another reason. Some people are just afraid of the sheer amount of people that are in the audience. Large crowds scare people. Judgment is another reason. When you stand up and you public speak, there are millions of things that run through your head. Oh, I'm too short, I'm too tall, I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm too old, I'm too young. Is my hair standing up? Is my fly open? Is my shirt tucked in enough? Can they tell that my voice is cracking? Can they tell that I'm shaking? So many things go through your mind. And I tell you, that's actually one of the hardest things to overcome is the judgment part. Because no matter how many times we tell you that, hey, we're not judging you, you still feel like people are. The lack of preparation is another reason. People can get nervous when they feel like they don't have enough time to prepare for their speech. And that can cause a lot of stress and anxiety. And another reason is, to go along with that is people get nervous when they have to speak about a topic that they don't know a lot about. Right now, I'm very comfortable with speaking about a communication topic. But if I had to get up and give you a presentation over protons, neutrons, and electrons in chemistry, I'm going to be very nervous because I'm not familiar with the material. Another reason is the lack of knowledge. Some people just don't know how to give a speech. Some people just don't know how to start a speech. They don't know how to start an introduction. They don't know the attention getters that you are supposed to do during an introduction. They don't know how to close out a speech with a good conclusion. They don't know the proper delivery methods to use. So that can make people nervous. But the good news is that all of these fears can be overcome. So why is public speaking important? Why do we even have public speaking classes in our colleges? People ask me that question all the time. Why do we have to take public speaking? Well, I'm going to give you some reasons. One reason is it increases your self-confidence. We live in a materialistic world, whether we like to believe it or not, and a lot of our self-worth comes from how we feel like other people feel about us. I don't like it, but that's just the way it is. That's just the hand that we're dealt, and that's just what we got to deal with. By getting up in public speaking, you are increasing your self-confidence by increasing your communication skills, your conversational skills. You become a better conversationalist. Speaking is an activity that we do every single day. Another reason is it makes you more comfortable around other people. Have you ever been in a situation where you have that awkward moment, where you have that awkward silence, where you're standing there with somebody and neither of you know what to say and there's just that awkward silence? Or another thing would be you'll just say anything just to get something to come out of your mouth because you are trying to avoid that awkward silence. So you'll just say anything and you end up saying something very silly and you're like, man, why did I say that? By getting up in public speaking, you're going to be better around people. You're going to naturally become more comfortable around other people. At some point in your life, you will need to do it. That is another reason. I promise you, before you live out your entire life, you are going to have to public speak. People will disagree with me on that, but I can say I'm 99.999% positive that you are going to have to public speak before you live out your life. You may ask, well, what are some situations that I might have to public speak? Well, you might be asked to give a eulogy at a loved one's funeral. You might have to give a speech at your best friend's wedding, a maid of honor speech or a best man speech. The more successful you become, the more you're going to have to public speak, because you might manage a team of 10, 15 people and you might have to host meetings every single week. It's unavoidable. You're going to have to do it. The other day I had to give a presentation for a teaching lecture that I did in front of a bunch of instructors. It just happens. You're going to have to do it, whether you like it or not, at some point in your life. Another reason is it will help skills learned. The skills learned while public speaking can boost your performance in other areas of your life. Not only will it help in your communication skills, but it will help in your leadership skills and your conversational skills. Another reason is public speaking allows you to demonstrate your knowledge. By standing up and speaking, you are deeming yourself as an expert in the field. It's actually a chance for you to stand up and you get to brag about how knowledgeable you are on a certain subject. And you also are putting yourself above the minority by public speaking, because not many people do it. So how do you become a better public speaker? Well, the first thing you've got to do is you have to crash through your shell of self-consciousness. Think of a turtle. You know how a turtle, when it gets nervous and it gets scared, it hides its head back into its shell? Why does it do that? Because it feels comfortable there. It feels safe there. It feels protected there. It feels sheltered there. And that's kind of how we are as people when it comes to public speaking. When we sit in the audience, we'll feel protected back there. We feel comfortable back there. We are not nervous. But all I'm asking is for you to stick your head up out of that shell. Come out of your shell. Look around at the world and you will realize that the world is not as scary as what it seems. Put yourself out of your comfort zone. Put yourself in unfamiliar territory and you will be amazed at what can come of it. Another way to become a better public speaker is to don't try to imitate others. Be yourself. There are billions and billions of people out there in the world, but nobody in the world is like you. You are an individual. You are your own person. I guarantee if you and me get up and tell the same exact story, we're going to tell it two separate ways. Why? Because we're individuals. We're two separate people. And that's what brings flavor to your speech. That's what sets your speech different than everybody else's speech, is that you put yourself into it. It's okay to watch other people speak and to mimic them in some capacity, but don't completely copy them. Nobody wants to hear a carbon copy of somebody. Put your own self into your speech, and it will be a better speech. Another way to become a better public speaker is to converse with your audience. Talk to your audience. Ask questions. Ask for feedback. It's also an excellent way to help calm your nerves because it gets the attention off of you and onto somebody else. And people feel like you're being more personable with them. Your audience don't want to sit there and just listen to somebody talk and talk and talk over and over. They want to be included in some way. So converse with your audience. Another way to become a better public speaker is to put your heart into speaking. You're going to have a hard time getting people to buy in to what you are saying if they don't believe you. Be enthusiastic about the subject that you are trying to speak about. Take the best things about your speech and throw it out there. And be excited about it because it will come through in your voice. It will come out in your delivery. Okay, now we have reached the end of the presentation. I want you to pay attention there on the PowerPoint slides where it says public speaking documentary. It's called Speak. I want you to watch the trailer to this documentary. And if you can find it on Netflix, I know it used to be on Netflix. I hope it still is when you're listening to this. I want you to watch that documentary. And it shows how exhilarating public speaking can be for a lot of people. It's not always a crippling fear for everybody. And I want you to watch the trailer when you get some time so you can see what the documentary is about. And if it's something that catches your interest, I want you to watch it. Okay, so we've come to the end of the broadcast. And at this point in time, I would like to go ahead and answer some of the questions that was sent in to our email address at communicationlectureseries@gmail.com. And this question comes from Natasha Henderson, an adjunct speech instructor from Bluegrass Community and Technical College. She says, "Dear Adam, great podcast, love the show, but I have a question for you. As an instructor, I struggle with getting students to get up and give their speeches. What are some of the things that you do as an instructor to calm student nerves when they get up to speak?" Well, first off, Natasha, I want to say thank you for the kind compliments and listening to the show, and I'm happy to answer your question. You are absolutely right. It is one of the most difficult things as an instructor to get the students actually up out of their seat to get up in front of the class to public speak. So what I do is try to make them feel as comfortable as possible. I try to build a family atmosphere in the public speaking classroom. I understand that it's not the sexiest course on the curriculum to take, and there is a lot of anxiety that students have when taking this course. So it's important for students to feel comfortable around each other when they get up to speak. And I know that I feel more comfortable speaking around others that I'm comfortable speaking around, people that I'm close to, people that I feel confident around. So I try to make people as close as possible in the classroom from day one. I have the students introduce themselves. I have the students always working in group projects to get to know each other so they can feel more comfortable around each other when they get up to speak. That's one thing that I do. Another thing that I do is when they stand up to public speak, I've had students literally throw up, almost pass out, and shake like a leaf. So I get up and I stand beside them because one of their biggest fears is standing up by themselves in front of the class. They feel alone. They feel isolated. And I stand up beside them and I say, okay, I want you to start off your speech by just talking to me. Don't look at the audience, just talk to me. Tell me what you've come up with. Start your presentation. And then they start and they feel more comfortable because they've got the first couple words out of their mouth. They've got the first couple sentences out of their mouth. And before you know it, they're already on their second slide. And by that time, I'm easing my way back into my seat, and they go from talking to me to the whole class. So it's just getting them started sometimes is the hardest part. So I hope that answered your question, Natasha. And that's the only question that we had come to the email box this week. Remember, if you want to ask a question, you can do the same thing Natasha did by emailing us at communicationlectureseries@gmail.com, or you can write us a question on our Facebook page or inbox, or you could tweet me at AdamBanks88, or you could call in the show and ask the question live on the air. And I'll post a number to that when we get close to doing our second episode. I'm going to put up another poll to see what our next communication topic is going to be over, and then we will go from there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think it was a great first episode, and I hope all of you guys got something out of it. I hope you learned, and I hope to see you back here on the Communication Lecture Series.
Magic of public speaking takes you to the top, no more dreaming. Makes you a world-class speaker. This a complete system, ain't nothing easier. I used to be shy, never had a clue. I didn't know what I could do. A little time, and you will see the magic of public speaking.